What's going on out there, Zane? I see you in the building, man. Peace to everybody that may watch the replay and those of you who will chime in live. It's your boy Sean P in the place to be. We're on Science with Sean channel today. Let me go ahead and get straight to it, man, because I don't want to drag this out. A few days ago, Jaleel sends me a video from the Hill talking about COVID origins because news broke on the 26th, 27th, 26th or 27th is when the article was published of February. Well, released. No information of science was given. Only statements was made regarding the origins of COVID from an energy perspective. And we want to take a look at that stuff so that we can get everything understood in its proper context and not run amok and allow things to be misinterpreted or misintended. So I got the video, looked at the video, and I laughed. And then I turned around and I was like, bro, have you read the article? Or are you listening to what they're saying in the video? So, two more other people sent it to me. And, you know what I'm saying, it became a little disheartening. Then my brother Zenra, he put up a post, just to spark conversation and you know what I mean, kind of get behind a thought process, not to rule out something. So, me, Zenra, and Chavis, we're on a post and we're kind of talking about it, going back and forth in a way. And Zenra's argument is like, we can't rule something out or whatever, and we can't marry information. And of course, when you're dealing with science, you never want to marry information. However, I stood firm on my position. Now, I'm not going to tell you, well, many of you already know my position because you've been following the channel for so long and we've been dealing with this science for so long. So we only can stand what we have evidence for. However, I want to show y'all how we kind of got into this debacle. So, by the way, for those of you tapped in, what up, Crick? What up, Teddy? I do have some information that might be disheartening to those people claiming to be indigenous to the Americas and always been here. We're going to allow science to speak on behalf of the real people who've been here. And through our Holocaust and what inspired and brokered other things to take place in Africa, we know that the black folk that's claiming to be these indigenous aboriginals, natives, it wasn't you. We know it wasn't you. So, all right. That'll be coming soon. But let me share my entire screen. I don't need any audio right now. I will get to the audio when I need it. So, on the 26th, really the 25th, but it was released on the 26th. McCall, on report corroborating his investigation, concluded COVID-19 pandemic originated in Wuhan lab. When you read this press release from foreignaffairs.house.gov, McCall is under the belief that Sars Cov2 originated in the lab. All right. So here's his statement. Well, first, here's the release. House of Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCall released the following statement in response to the Department of Energy assessment that concludes the COVID-19 pandemic was most likely caused by a lab leak in China. The report reiterates the same finding in Chairman McCall's report from August 21st, which found a preponderance of evidence proved, a preponderance of evidence proved the virus was leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So let's stop here. Okay, let's pull up live his article. Now, mind you, all my sources are in the description of the video. So if anyone wants to go back, pull, review, you could do that. I'm simply showing you how to do this now. Now, y'all don't remember or recall this, but I actually have this art. I already have this PDF. Okay. This PDF, remember, I kind of went over this with some people. I don't know if many of you know this or not, but we had this information, 84 pages, and we kind of talked about this a little bit uh, in August 2021, over a year and a half ago. All right, so remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the information that was provided to us through this chairman. Now, many of you do not know who he is, so let's give you a little bit about him. He is Michael T. McCall, right? He leads this, okay? But if you go further and you deal with it, this entire thing is pushed by Republicans. This whole report. This is not a bipartisan effort. This article was merely his assumptions and his interpretations, and not a lot of evidence based. Remember, he said this is based upon multiple pieces of evidence laid out, put in the report, including, right? So then he names all these different areas and places for things, okay? And now he goes and gives it, they take their time, they put in this report, he goes and makes his argument here. All right, now there's a problem with this. The problem with this is that McCall doesn't rely on any virologist or epidemiologist, right? I can't say he doesn't, because if you go, my bad, I can't say he doesn't. I'm gonna show you what sparks his interest. There was this lady, right, who wrote some things, and let me see. He relied on something she had said in here. Um, man, I ain't looked at this thing in so long, but he relied on a piece of something that she said. She's a Chinese lady, and argue. Here she go right here. All right, boom. I ain't slow. I know what I'm talking about. So he relies on something that she says back in the early 2000s. Okay, regarding origins and stuff like that. So he uses something out of her framework to argue, as you can see. Here's the article. Bats are natural reservoirs of SARS-like coronaviruses in Science 2005. So his assumption is that they took this, right? Bat origins of SARS, yada, 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 manipulated it, and yada, yada, yada. It comes out of a lab, yada, yada, yada. That's his assumption. All right. Now, this was not criticized by the scientific community. It was merely ignored because it lacked integrity. Okay. That's neither here nor there. There might be some critical pieces out by. But anyway, here's his quote. His quote says, a year and a half ago, after conducting an extensive investigation, I released a report concluding the preponderance of the evidence proved the coronavirus was leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology because of dangerously unsafe conditions at the lab, and that the release turned into the global COVID-19 pandemic because the Chinese Communist Party focused on covering up their mistake instead of warning the world. While I wished it had happened sooner, I'm pleased the Department of Energy has finally reached the same conclusion that I have already come to. I have requested a full and thorough briefing from the administration of the report and the evidence behind it. Now is the time for the entire Biden administration to join the Department of Energy, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the majority of Americans by publicly concluding what common sense told us at the start. The COVID-19 pandemic originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, China. It is critical. The administration also began to work immediately with our partners and allies around the world to both hold the CCP accountable and to put in place updated international regulations to ensure something like this cannot happen again. Now, I know you heard that and you're listening and you're wondering, what in the world is this dude saying? He said there's a preponderance of evidence that proved the coronavirus was leaked. He also goes in there and says that the Chinese were trying to cover up a mistake. He also goes in there and says that the Biden administration needs to get behind the Department of Energy and the FBI on this. That's what he says. The FBI and the Department of Energy. And he said that he proved in his 84-page argument. Now, this is the article that was published, but I'm going to go to CNN's article because I think I'm going to get an error. And I want you guys to actually pay attention. It's the same information, but I really need to make it make sense to you. So here is what published. This is what we learned. And it's not everything because we don't have the Department of Energy report. I'm going to say it again. We do not have the Department of Energy's report, nor do we have the entire hearing. Or do we? All right. So, an updated intelligence assessment about the origins of COVID-19 virus has reopened a long simmering and unsolved debate about how the virus came to be and will fuel a new committee House Republicans have created to investigate the issue. Mind you, it took 10 years for them to conclude with evidence the origins of Sars Cov2. Yeah, 10 years. Anyway, while scientists still predominantly believe the virus occurred naturally in animals and spread to humans in an outbreak in a market in Wuhan, the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence is now the second tentacle of the U.S. government intelligence apparatus, along with the FBI. So there's two. You got the FBI and you got the Department of Energy that are endorsing lab leak theory. The minority view that the virus occurred as a result of work in the Chinese lab. How many virologists or epidemiologists or immunologists work for the FBI? Can anyone find that information and let me know? How many virologists or epidemiologists or immunologists work for the Department of Energy Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence? If you could tell me that, please let me know. Those are two critical questions that we need answers to. The DOE office is one of 18 government agencies that make up the intelligence community, which are under umbrella of the Office of Director of National Intelligence. Most of intelligence communities remain either split or leaning toward a natural occurrence theory that scientific investigation have concluded as most likely, but without conclusive evidence, no one has been able to reject the lab leak entirely. The theory has been a subject of much of focus by who? Republican lawmakers. The dude who did the 84-page article is a Republican lawmaker. However, in polling in 2021 suggested the majority of the Americans believe the Chinese government had something to do with the origins of the virus. Asked whether they believe the virus originated from a lab leak in China or from human contact with an infected animal, about half, 52%, said that they believe the lab leak was responsible. Now, in the House majority, Republicans have formed a special committee of the House Oversight Committee specifically to investigate, among other things, China's role in the early spread of the virus and the U.S. government dollars to help fund some research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the research facility at the center of the lab leak theory. Lack of answers about the origins of COVID and accumulation of circumstantial evidence have led some scientists, the Biden, we do have the World Health Organization's report. And we also know that the World Health Organization was trying to do a follow up report, including further investigation. There's documents inside the World Health Organization at the time because they were over there doing an investigation independently, non political. I'm pleased the Department of Energy has finally reached the same conclusion that I already come to. This is what the Republican Michael McCall of Texas, chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, said in his statement. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri demanded more information about the Department of Energy's assessment and promised to push for more such reports to be declassified. The change in opinion by the Department of Energy, by the department's intelligence office, is far from a total backing of the lab leak theory. For starters, the conclusion was reached only with low confidence. The FBI's report was with medium confidence. They were stern on medium, the FBI. The Department of Energy cited low confidence as opposed to medium or high confidence. We're going to get into what low, medium, and high confidence means. However, in this article, it is explained by CNN's writers here that intelligence agencies can make assessments with either low, medium, or high confidence. A low confidence assessment generally means that the information obtained is not reliable enough or is too fragmented, to make a more definitive analytic judgment, or that there is not enough information available to draw a more robust conclusion. It is not clear what exactly changed things for the officials involved in the assessment of the Department of Energy, but whatever it was, has not convinced the majority of intelligence agencies. So, the Department of Energy has a specific sector of people in there that don't quite agree with the overall assessment that has been put forth, and therefore that's why we have a low confidence. That's what it's saying. So, according to a 2-page list of takeaways from the initial 21 intelligence community review of the the origins of COVID, ordered by President Biden, 4 components of intelligence community and National Intelligence Council believe, like most scientists, that natural exposure caused the virus. 3 elements of intelligence community did not believe there was enough evidence to make a determination on one agency, which CNN has reported is the FBI's medium confidence, ladies and gentlemen. I told you this. Only the FBI cited medium confidence. The Department of Energy, low confidence. The scientific community doesn't agree. They're only saying we are not ruling it out because it's politically correct thing to say. So there are some key points that the Department of Energy's report and the 2-page report cites that they agree on. The virus was not developed as a biological weapon. That was one of the claims that was made. Most of the agencies believe the virus was not genetically engineered. This is what we agree on. 2 agencies did not think there was sufficient evidence to make an assessment either way. Wow. Well, what science did was they looked at the virus under a microscope, the mutations of the virus under a microscope, the different mutations under a microscope. What they have seen was consistency in a natural state, unmanipulative. That's why you analyze viruses. That's why you understand virus types and more. Also, there's some key points to agree that Chinese officials did not have foreknowledge of the virus before the initial outbreak. Those are three important key points. So I'm gonna let you read the rest of the CNN article if you would like. I'm not gonna dwell on that. I got a lot of other things that I want to talk about here. So I'm gonna bring you to March 8th, 2023. Now remember, all this stuff that we just reviewed was published on the 26th, 27th, and 28th. I'm gonna say it again. The last three articles that I showed you are 26th. Both of them should be the 27th, but I think one was released on the 28th. Now I'm fast forwarding and I'm bringing you to March 8th, which was yesterday. So in a press release from yesterday, the COVID origins hearing wrapped up. Facts, science, evidence point to a Wuhan lab leak. This is from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability. So here's the takeaways from the Oversight Committee. First, the Select Subcommittee on the COVID pandemic held a hearing investigating the origins of COVID to gather facts about the origination of the virus has claimed nearly 7 million lives globally. At the hearing, several witnesses pointed how science, facts, and evidence point to a lab leak in Wuhan. Witnesses point. We don't have the report, or do we? Knowing the origins of COVID-19 is fundamental to helping predict and prevent future pandemics. This is what comes away. The Select Subcommittee Chairman Brad Winstrup opened the hearing by emphasizing how knowing the origins of the virus is essential to helping predict and prevent future pandemics, protecting health and national security, and preparing the U.S. for future. He pledged that the Select Subcommittee will thoroughly, responsibly, and honestly investigate the origin of COVID. So he made a pledge in his opening hearing that they will thoroughly and responsibly and honestly investigate. So the headline here is a little misleading. It says they wrap up with facts, but Brad says we will thoroughly, responsibly, and honestly investigate the origins. Dr. Metzel, PhD, senior fellow of the Atlantic Council, said in his opening statement, if we do not get to the bottom of what went wrong with the COVID pandemic, it will fail in our efforts to fearlessly understand all shortcomings and show up the vulnerabilities this crisis has so clearly exposed. The victims of the next pandemic, our children and grandchildren, would ask us why we failed to protect them when we knew what was at stake and had that chance. Mounting evidence continues to show that COVID-19 may have originated from a lab. Or does it? Dr. Robert Redfield, former director of the U.S., the CDC, testified how science indicates COVID infections were likely the result of an accidental lab leak in Wuhan. His conclusion is based on biology of the virus itself and the unusual actions and in around Wuhan in 2019, including gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Nicholas Wade, the former Science and Health editor, New York Times, and editor of Science and Nature, testified Dr. Fauci and Collins used unverified data to dismiss the lab leak theory in favor of natural transmission. I need to make sure that you hear this. Old arguments and charges. Mitchell testifies how China's government destroyed samples, hid records, and imprisoned Chinese journalists, prevented Chinese scientists from saying or writing anything on the pandemic origins without prior government approval, actively spread misinformation, and prevented an evidence-based investigation. Where's the damn evidence for that? Yeah, you heard the words from Nicholas Wade, an editor at New York Times, say Fauci, unverified data, lab leak theory. Yeah. So the mainstream media downplayed and even denied the scientific theory that COVID-19 emerged from the world, the Wuhan lab. So Nicholas Wade testified about the campaign discredited the lab leak theory. He pointed out that scientists kept in line with a natural origin camp led by Dr. Fauci and Collins because of their dependency on the government grants and that the media failed to challenge the forced narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make myself very, very clear. Nicholas Wade in no way is a virologist or an epidemiologist. He is an editor for New York Times. He will not write evidence that support his backing, but he will tell you how he feels. He says all witnesses agreed that the possibility of COVID-19 originating from a lab is not a conspiracy theory. Member highlights the subcommittee asked Winstrop asked witnesses whether it is critical to investigate the origins of COVID-19. All witnesses answered yep. Winstrop also raised concern about the gain of function research. Redfield defined during the hearing as altering a pathogen to increase either transmissibility or pathogenicity. See, here is where you can rule out the gain of function because they are investigating the virus under a microscope. They can see and tell if it is natural or unnatural. Big science. In your expert opinion, was the Wuhan Institute conducting gain of function research on a batch of coronaviruses? Redfield says absolutely. Oh, never mind. I can't play it. But he says absolutely. Oh man, I done got us off our damn. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let me pull my source back up. But yeah, so while I'm pulling this back up, the brother says that. He literally says it. Gain of function. So now we have an onslaught of certain interpretations of information that's coming from these people. And all right, my bad. From these people. So now that we know what we know, okay, I got the oversight link back up. I had to go back in the description. And let's deal with it. Yeah, I mean, well, you can't argue against an editor, right? You only let him do what he does. It's his job to do what he does. So this Twitter thing is going around. You might see it go viral. But anyway, why do you think you were excluded from those calls? Redfield says it was told to me that they wanted a single narrative and that I was obviously had a different point of view. If you really want to be truthful, it's antithetical to science. Science has a debate and they squashed any debate. Scientists, including Fauci, then drafted an argument. Do you think that this paper does hide the truth? I think it's an inaccurate paper that basically was part of a narrative that they were creating. So, in the investigation, he is going back and forth, and they are charging one person here. He's saying we didn't allow science to have its way or have its say. At the end of the day, that's what goes on. I'm leaving this for you. We have it. So now we got a little bit of the hearing. They're saying what they're saying. Okay. So let's go back to the point of analytical confidence, right? Which is merely what is being interpreted in the release of information from the Department of Energy, which is citing a lab leak theory at low confidence. So analytical confidence is a rating employed by intelligence analysts to convey doubt to decision makers about a statement or estimated probability. The need for analytical confidence rating arises from analysts' imperfect knowledge or conceptual model. An analytic confidence rating pairs with a statement used as a word of estimated probability to form a complete analytic statement. Scientific methods for determining analytic confidence remain in infancy. This is the key. Let's move forward. In an effort to apply more rigorous standards to national intelligence estimates, the National Intelligence Council includes explanations of 3 levels of analytic confidence made in estimated statements. So, as you can see, people like the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Energy, the counterintelligence and counterintelligence, and all of them, all of those bodies are working from an analytical confidence perspective when they are reviewing information. In reviewing that information, they will side with either high confidence, which generally indicates judgments based on high quality information and or nature of the issue makes it possible to render a solid judgment. A high confidence judgment is not a fact or a certainty, however, and still carries a risk of being wrong. I want to say that again. If these governmental agencies cite high confidence in something, doesn't necessarily mean that it is right, but they can come to a conclusion of high confidence, but still can be wrong if they don't have all the facts. Moderate confidence generally means credible sources and plausible information, but not of sufficient quantity of corroboration to warrant a high level of confidence. There's more, this is plausible in high confidence over medium. And low confidence generally means questionable or implausible information was used. Questionable and implausible information was used. The information is too fragmented or poorly corroborated to make solid analytical inferences, or significant concerns or problems with sources existed. The last 2 words is the key to the article that McCall refers to as backing him up because it cites low confidence and he says that it's facts. But this clearly tells us that low confidence means questionable or implausible information was used. The information is too fragmented or poorly corroborated to make solid analytical inferences, or significant concerns or problems with sources existed. So there's problems with sources that existed, just like McCall's 84-page article. There's problems with, yet he concludes undeniably with all the facts that this thing comes from a different place. Most people are unfamiliar with the analytic confidence, and therefore I had to bring that to your attention so that you could properly understand that when reading things, if something cites a level of confidence, you need to know what it's inferring here, and it still can be wrong. So I'm going to unshare and reshare because I have to have audio. NPR article that was published on the 28th. After all the debacle and everything that transpired on the 26th and the 27th, NPR dropped the article that evening of the 28th that says, what does the science say about the origin of SARS-CoV-2 pandemic? Because everyone else was talking about the political melee that transpired and people's opinions and the level of confidence in this report that comes up out of the Department of Energy without using science. So what does the science say? Before we get to that, I only want to bring forth the World Health Organization's global study on the origins of COVID as well. You can download the report and you can read it for yourself. We've already read it here on this channel before. Don't want to do that. However, for the sake of YouTube and the fact that YouTube algorithms pick up on World Health Organization, if it's used or not used, is something that I wanted to refer. So in the description of the video, I dropped the World Health Organization's global study of the origins of SARS-CoV-2 onto NPR. This 3-minute article is going to be interesting. Very interesting.
Several studies released over the past few days offer the most convincing evidence yet that the COVID pandemic started in a seafood market in Wuhan, China. A separate competing theory holds that the pandemic came from a laboratory leak, but the new studies present physical evidence that the virus emerged in the market. NPR's Michaeline Ducleff is here to tell us about this research. Hi there.
Hi, Ari.
This is the seafood market we've been talking about from the very beginning of this pandemic, right? All the way back in 2019.
Yes, the one on seafood market. This was the site of the first large COVID outbreak. That part is not controversial. Perhaps thousands of people were infected there, and that market has hundreds and hundreds of stalls packed close together, and people there sold all kinds of meat, frozen, fresh, and live wild animals.
So what's new here? These studies have physical evidence. What is it?
Yeah, so these studies are preliminary. They haven't been peer-reviewed. But one thing they show is photographic evidence that at least 2 types of wild animals were sold there that could easily catch SARS-CoV-2 and shed it into the air. These are raccoon dogs and red foxes. And until this study, there had been doubts about whether animals like this, that could be actual sources of the virus, were in the market.
So photographs of animals that can easily spread the virus. Anything else?
Yeah. So these animals, also there's proof that they were held in cages in or near one stall in particular at the market, a stall where scientists actually found a lot of SARS-CoV-2 on surfaces. Michael Werby led 2 of these studies. He's an evolutionary biologist at the University of Arizona. He says inside this stall, the virus was found on very specific surfaces, including machines where animals were butchered.
The samples were very animal-y. For example, a feather remover, a cart of the sort that we see in photographs that are used for transporting cages. But best of all, a metal cage in a back room.
Best of all is a choice of words there. So we're talking about very early in the outbreak, animals in the market, genetic samples from where they were held showing the virus was there. Like, how are they connecting these dots?
Yeah, and they also show that these conditions existed for years. Werby says about 5 years before the pandemic, one of his colleagues was actually taken to this exact stall because people were concerned about what could potentially be growing or created there.
Very much told, this is the kind of place that has the ingredients for cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens.
But just to rule out any other possibilities, is it possible that a person could have brought it into the market and spread it to those animals and to other people there?
Yeah, so these papers address that one too. One of them looks at the genetics of the virus found in the market, and it shows that 2 different variants jumped into people at almost the exact same time. And it shows that these variants, one of which went on to spread all around the world, couldn't have actually evolved in people.
So does this end the lab leak theory? Does this rule it out?
I was talking to Jeremy Camille about this question. He's a virologist at Louisiana State University Health Shreveport and not involved in this research. He says these studies, along with several others published recently, are really tipping the scales toward an animal origin.
Absolutely pushing it that way. It doesn't exclude other hypotheses entirely, But a number of the things that it doesn't exclude are other related, like to the wildlife trade. Like, could people who were trafficking in these animals and bringing them to Wuhan have been infected and brought it to the market?
He says, you know, the picture is really becoming clearer and clearer that the pandemic most likely started in the market and came from an animal.
NPR's Michaeline Duclef, thanks for walking through this investigation with us.
All righty. So that's what the science says. So let's take a further in-depth look. All right. Since SARS-CoV-2 pandemic began, the origins have been a topic of scientific and political debate. This is what we're having. We're having a real-time debate between science and politics about the origins of a virus. Who do you trust? Science or politics? Some people say they don't trust either one of them, right? So let's not rule out and let's deal with evidence-based information only. All right. So now that we got this understanding what we're in the middle of a political and scientific debate. We can move forward. All right. So we just heard from science, but earlier we just heard from politics. The whole beginning of this build has been the political side. Now science is speaking. So I want to direct you to what was said in this article, the labs, the places where they were finding evidence of. Now, I'm about to throw something at y'all that is in my book. In the back of my book, y'all see these animals right here? In the back of my book, I refer to one of the lead virologists in the scientific community. All right. I'm going to call him Big Homie Rob. I refer to the work because we have evidence, genetic flow, okay, of two, like you heard the scientists say, two different paths this virus was taking. You have virus A, virus B. Virus A and virus B were coming from different places per se. Neither one of them have origins that are coming from a lab, but they are flowing toward a lab. Sean, I don't recall that. You made that up. What are you talking about? Why is you saying this, bro? You ain't got that. What are you really saying, bro? So, ladies and gentlemen, on page 167 of my book, I have the SARS-CoV-2 origins bonus material. I did this particular way because I knew at some point in time that I would be writing or adding on to this bonus material. All right, so Dr. Big Homie Rob, pause, Homie Rob, right? Ferry, R.F. Ferry, right? Released an article. It's called The Early Appearance of Two Distinct Genomic Lineages of SARS-CoV-2 in Different Wuhan Wildlife Markets Suggests SARS-CoV-2 has a natural origin. This was released on May 12, 2021. It is available online to you. What did I say in my book? Well, the genetic lineages of SARS-CoV-2 associated with early cases in Wuhan are documented in a WHO report. Previously, Rumbart 2020 noted that the root of the phylogeneity of SARS-CoV-2 are two lineages designated lineage A and B. You heard that. Early lineage A viruses include SARS-CoV-2 isolated EPISL52 529213 sampled on December 30th, 2019 from a person linked to wildlife market different than the Wuhan market, the Hunan market. So I want to allow me to reintroduce you to lineage A was found in a market that wasn't Wuhan, but it was the Hunan market. Two different marketplaces. None of them are near the lab. So where was lineage B? It was found and isolated in Wuhan. This ain't the same word. Huanan is where market was where lineage A was found. Wuhan is where B was found. This article is referring to B. When they show you the pictures and images of the places, they are talking about Wuhan. Right here in this article. But I just gave you very key factual information that was discovered and also published in the World Health Organization's report. So we have the top virologists and the World Health Organization providing a pathway of information that shows us two lineage lines flowing toward, not coming from, a lab. We also have a 96 and 97% match, providing a very strong case for the bat origins of Sars Cov2. Sean, how in the hell are you saying this, my brother? There was an article published in the Cell Press on June 9, 2021. It is called "The Identification of Novel Bat Coronaviruses Sheds Light on the Evolutionary Origins of SARS-CoV-2 and Related Viruses." Neither one of these articles that provide us with evidence got Fauci's name in it at all. As a matter of fact, for those of us who study virology, epidemiology, we understand how viruses come to be. I also have that in my book. So here we have evolutionary biologist Michael Wordby. He helped lead two of the studies and has been at the forefront of search for the origins of the pandemic. He has spent his career tracking down the origins of pandemic, including the origin of HIV and the 1918 flu. Back in 2021, Wordby signed a letter calling for an investigation into the lab leak theory, but then through his own investigation, he quickly found data supporting animal origin. I repeat, an evolutionary biologist was initially on the lab leak theory, but he quickly got off the lab leak theory because of evidence. And he found data supporting the animal origins. So when the studies were first published online, NPR spoke to him. What did he have to say? He believes the data may shift the debate about the lab leak theory and the significance of photos taken 5 years before the pandemic. Here are key points from the conversation, which has been edited for clarity and length. He brings us to live animals that are susceptible to COVID-19 were in the market in December 2019. I repeat, animals were in the Wuhan market that are susceptible of SARS-CoV-2. Comprehende? Touche. Moving forward. Live susceptible animals were held in a stall where SARS-CoV-2 was later detected on a machine that processed animals in the market. This is also, guess what? This report matched what was in the World Health Organization's report. Mm, 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 mm. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who rock with your boy, samples positive of coronaviruses were found in the Hunan, not the Wuhan, the Hunan seafood wholesale market in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we have evidence 3, also reported by the World Health Organization. These are photos of raccoon, dogs, and birds taken in 2014 on the west side, on the east side. The little dots, those are places that were reported for SARS-CoV-2 in the market. This ain't the Wuhan, by the way. This is the Hunan. You know, the one y'all thought I was just making up. It was there. Look at them. There they go. Them little raccoon bastards. Moving on, the earliest known cases of COVID-19, even those not directly related to individuals who had been in the market, radiated out from the market. The market was the epicenter. The Hunan market and the Wuhan market. The Wuhan blew it up. So NPR observed how, in the sense that the seafood market is so closely bullseye center of this outbreak. Yes, and I don't understand how anyone could not be moved, at least somewhat, by the data, and then take this idea of an animal origin seriously, especially given the other things we found in these studies. So what was the other things that we found in these studies, my guy? Mapping the first reported cases of COVID-19 in Wuhan. The Hunan market. There you go. Remember, there's two marketplaces that are significant here. Lineage A, lineage B, lineage A, lineage B, lineage A, lineage B. Let that sink in. Lineage A, lineage B, lineage A, lineage B. Both coming from other places. Mind you, across the water, if you're looking at the screen, across the water, the lab is over across the water. On the right-hand side of the map where you see the purple and aqua colors. Those are the first cases. But that's also the start of the lineages coming from a whole different direction than the lab. The virus jumped into people right before the outbreak in the market. For example, our new genetic analysis tells us that the virus was not around for very long when the cases occurred at the market. For example, the earliest known patient at the market had an onset of symptoms on December 10th, 2019. We can estimate that at that point in time, there were only about 10 people infected with the virus in the world and probably fewer than 70. The city got 11 million people in it. It's highly unlikely that the first COVID-19 outbreak would occur at the market if there weren't a source of the virus there. Why are you getting sick at the market if the source ain't there? I'm going to leave this for y'all to read it because it is there. Now I want to have a little fun. Right? You know what I'm saying? I want to have a little fun. Can y'all see my screen? I'm gonna have a little fun. Share this tab instead. Okay, I see what y'all doing, StreamYard. Okay, StreamYard. I got you now. Ladies and gentlemen, StreamYard has done something different. Instead of, okay, let's see if the audio is shared. Let's see if the audio is shared. Instead of me having to go back and reshare and do all of these other things, StreamYard has added a tab that when I move to a tab, when I move to a new tab, I ain't got to unshare. I just move to a new tab and it'll say, share this tab. Look at StreamYard. Okay, and y'all can see the screen, but can you hear the audio? Let's test it.
And then it would be Alan, and then Rich, and Kathy, and Brianne, and then Daniel Griffin would be cool, right? And then Angela. So Angela's barely been. So I don't know how many people know her. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to discuss is the Department of Energy report, right? Which we don't have. What we have is them saying they're convinced it came from a lab with low confidence. So I've been corresponding with Eddie Holmes and Bob Gary, and they say, yeah, we don't know what they have. We may never know. The panel today that they had a House hearing, this is completely stacked against reason and logic. I know two of the three people. Someone type in the third one. I know it's Robert Redfield, former CDC, who botched COVID during the pandemic, right? Nicholas Wade, former Times science writer, who has moved to the dark side. I don't know who the third person was. I mean, where are Eddie Holmes and Bob Gary and Christian Anderson to give the other point? You just stack it because you want one outcome. So I'm not convinced they have anything. So you should ask me, Vincent, what would they need to have to convince you that it came from a lab? I don't even know what lab they're talking about now, because the Wuhan Institute of Virology is 8 kilometers across the river from the Huanan seafood market. And the Huanan seafood market is clearly the epicenter of the early outbreak, as shown by Michael Warby and colleagues. So there's this Wuhan CDC next to the Huanan marketplace, but there's no cases there. They're at the market. What would I need? Well, so here's the thing. I think they're saying it likely came from a lab because we haven't found the ancestor in nature. And that's just disingenuous, because we have highly related viruses in nature. So clearly similar viruses, very similar to Sars Cov2, especially in the receptor binding domain, hugely similar, are circulating.
Okay, real quick. If you don't recall, I'm going to say this for you again. At the receptor binding domain, if you just hold your hands high like you're about to give somebody a high five, you're about to give somebody a high five. Your 5 fingers are the spike proteins. From your wrist to your elbow would be that receptor binding domain. Your elbow is the key essential point that touches the virus point where they're talking about. The evidence is right there at the elbow of the virus. But Bill, Vince, you the expert. Why am I cutting in like I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm the expert. Let me let you speak, because they like to listen to you versus me.
Out there. So it shows that it could have come from nature. We have phylogenetic trees showing those relationships. We have the early epicenter at the market. And we have, of course, the historical fact that every human virus has come from an animal at one time or another. Okay, you want to ignore that and just say this could be the first? Okay, that's fine. We'll ignore it. We'll ignore history. That's a good practice in general. We have data indicating a likelihood of a zoonotic spillover but no data saying it came from a lab, except that the CDC was nearby. Really? That's your data? So what else do you have? If they don't tell us, we can't fight back. And these hearings are baloney because they're stacked in favor of people who think it came from a lab. So this is just a ploy. It's horrible. And I don't know that they will ever release it, but they do have, because they don't have anything. They don't have anything. Has David Quammen voiced an opinion? I haven't heard. I haven't. If you ask David, he will waffle because he wants to look into it first. He wants to see what they have and so forth. I could email him. Sure, I could do that. But Eddie and Bob Gary have been emailing back and forth with me, and they just say it's
The one that I called Rob, which is Robert, people nickname him Bob, is who he just mentioned, Garrity. He's the guy. He's one of the leading guys for investigation. Like, the science is solid. But you hear Vince. If you don't know who Vince Racaniello is, he's one of the top virologists out. And he's telling you. But he said something very critical here. He said, they ain't released no information yet. What the information at? From the hearing. Where's the evidence? Let's hear that. Let's look at that. Let's review that. Let's not hear people's opinions to questions or answers to questions. Show me the evidence. Let's keep it funky. Don't tell me where you at. Show me where you at based on data.
It's just a whitewash. Is that not a whitewash? It's just throwing junk at the screen. And they can convince people that hello Tom, welcome, and thanks for moderating. They can convince people because the Department of Energy, the FBI, they say, oh, it's a government agency, they must be right. Really? Seriously? Well, tell us what the evidence is then. And the other thing is that this is not something you solve with an investigation. You have to get data. And I don't know how they would get data. They're not going to get into China and get data. They're not going to have isolates. They're not going to have phylogenetic trees. It's just an agenda, and it fits their narrative, and that's all. So when we get the data, we'll look at it. But until then, I can't say anything. And all I can say is we have data supporting a zoonotic origin. That's quite good. And if you choose to ignore it, then you're not following science. So put your thoughts in if you'd like.
Say it again, Vince.
Then you're not following science.
Say it again, Vince.
We get the data, we'll look at it. But until then, I can't say anything. And all I can say is we have data supporting a zoonotic origin. That's quite good. And if you choose to ignore it, then you're not following science. So put your thoughts in if you'd like, and I'll get to them. How can one hope to find ancestral virus 3 years later? Elena writes, well, ancestral Sars Cov2 was found 10 years later.
Oh, look at Sean on this shit. Oh,
well, the parts for making Sars Cov2 were found in bats in a cave in Yunnan province. No, where was that? I forgot where the cave was. So you can do it, but not much longer, because yes, the viruses continue to reproduce at high rates and they change, and you're not going to recognize them anymore. And let's see, can the lab leak and spillover both be true? As in they were studying something from the wild in the lab. Yeah, but they weren't. Wuhan Institute of Virology, as Eddie Holmes has said, and yesterday he put up a Twitter thread with all his data. They published all the viruses they had, and SARS CoV-2 wasn't in it. This was before the pandemic. So why wouldn't they publish?
So let's go look that up. Let's go look that up. Eddie Holmes, MD, Twitter, Ars Origins. Let's see if I can find it. Y'all know I ain't got Twitter, but that don't mean I can't find our answer. What we looking for? Let me make sure this dude. All right, so look, boom, share this tab. Yeah, now, okay. Okay, now I'm rocking with you, StreamYard. I was upset for a while. So here's a retweet. Oh my god, I don't understand it. So dumb again. Wade thought that the 123 was the date, but it just means the post of 1 out of 23. I don't know what this is. I don't know. Boom. So let's look at this screenshot. Okay, we can't get it from this particular retweet because they don't know what they're retweeting. So let's see if we can get Eddie's whole thing. 12 hours ago, he retweets Peter Hotez. I thought today's House Coronavirus Subcommittee hearing were mostly reckless and uninformed speculations and largely devoid of any science. Our nation faces a number of serious pandemic threats today. Did nothing to help American people. Okay. That's how y'all feeling, huh? One in, a real honor for me, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, so that's the thoughts. Uh-oh. Much of what to think about the so-called lab leak theory is wrong. Debunks 5 big myths around the whole thorny debate. Okay. So I believe revisiting this famous section of the fuse and grant proposal, I think we'll be hearing a lot about this again. They bring this up. But he has tweets. I ain't found them yet. There you go. So here we go. Here go one of them. 17 hours ago. Science takes backseat to politics in first hearing origin of COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go find some more from Eddie. Study section was November 4th, 2019. The grant got impact score of 27. Advisory council meeting was January 20. He killing them. The idea that Tony Fauci intervened to pay us off is pathetic. So Eddie Holmes is one of the people involved here. Look at him. I was an applicant on a Creed grant with Yoshi Kawawoki that was not funded. So the source, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you don't know. The source, his name is Eddie Holmes. He worked with and was a part of the so-called grant that was provided. And here you go again. All I can say is that I just don't remember Redfield's name coming up when Jeremy Farrar and I were discussing who to have on the very rapidly convened teleconference. I very likely didn't. Who the head of the US CDC was given that I live in Sydney. He was going in yesterday. How the COVID lab leak theory lost me. Los Angeles Times. So he went to work yesterday on Twitter. He went to work. Oh, Vince, retweet. Eddie Holmes. And then viral origins. So no one remembered. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all don't remember this show? Let me show y'all this. Let me show y'all this. Share this tab. Oh, it's up. So y'all don't remember this show. This is Eddie right here. He going ham on Twitter. It's the show. What are he talking about? Viral origins. September 9, 28, 2022. You can go back and check that show out if you'd like to. It's very good. Very, very, very good show. And the show notes should be somewhere in there where you could check them out. Yep, here is the show notes. Bam. The proximal origins of yada, yada, yada. Let me pull this up. Oh, that's gonna stay on the screen. All right, money. Show notes. Y'all don't remember this? You should know this sign right here. That's next gen. There's the Journal of Nature article right there. The proximal origins of SARS CoV-2. Come on, man. I ain't got to do all of that. Let's go back to Rack and Yellow. Let's go back to Rack and Yellow. He kicking at science.
Published SARS-CoV-2 if they had it, because they had no idea it was going to cause a pandemic. They would have published it. And also, you have to understand that there were at least two spillovers at the market, because there are two lineages of SARS-CoV-2 with slightly different.
What is Vince talking about? Is he saying the same shit I've already said? Listen, you have to think like a virologist and behave like a virologist when it comes to this science. He training you. He teaches the courses. Once you understand the origins of viruses and how they evolve and manipulate and move forward, then you understand everything. Years ago, Unc told y'all about evolution. People thought he was crazy and out of his mind about evolution. Some people fought against it, then some people started to switch sides on it. However, they was like, why we don't see it in real time? And Unc said, we do. All you got to do is look at bacteria. All you got to do is look at viruses. He said that to everybody. But we didn't. No, let me take that. Let me not include myself and let me not include y'all. Many people didn't understand what he was saying when he said that. It wasn't until this pandemic that people began to see in real time how the evolutionary process works in viruses. It's showing us the evolution is real. The original virus has adapted and mutated so many times over. We on Omicron 6.0. You cannot make this up.
Genome sequences. And so, a guy from Fox News says, well, couldn't somebody from the Institute have gone shopping at the market? Well, yeah, but that's not. If they were infected and they brought it to the market, it's one lineage. Where's the other coming from? And why weren't there cases then at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? There weren't, by the way. Don't believe what the Post wrote. There are no cases of COVID at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's nonsense. So, all right, when I get to more, I'll address it. But let's hit some. Hello, everybody. Nice to have you here. I'm not going to go through where you are because I know where you are. You're mostly the same people. Welcome back. And I don't know what this means. John writes, any idea what's up with Robert Redfield? Is there any data to support this? What do you mean? So what he said today? I don't know what he said, but I have a statement from Wade because it was published and I have it. But there isn't really anything there. I know if there are data, I'm happy to look at any data. You know that we're scientists, but I don't see anything. They haven't put anything out there. Kang, hello. How are the various flu viruses identified? Are these serotypes and each type considered a variant? If they are epitopes, why can't they be used to immunize? Okay. Well, nowadays if you have someone with suspected influenza or an animal, you're just going to be screening. If they have a weird illness, if it's birds and they have a flu-like illness, then you would do genome sequencing and you would identify the virus simply by genome sequencing. And the H and the
Stop real quick. So Again, he just said something significant that is also a part of the conversation that we're having. And the reason that we know about the two lineages is because they sequence the genome. They sequence the original strand. They sequence every time this thing adapts and mutates, they sequence. Hence the reason why testing is important, and they swab the hell out of your nose because they are trying to capture some of that virus that is in your nose, and they putting it on a microscope and they've been like, oh yeah, COVID. Yep, this person got it right here. Here you go. And it helps science advance. It helps science advance. But it's just funny to me how people don't appreciate real spill deal science. So look, I ain't running rack and yellow all the way up. I don't, he has some more. He has some more to say about it. So let me get in the way of that.
Anybody watch the hearing? So I didn't watch it, but if anyone did, give us a summary. And your summary can be, it was nothing. How about a live stream with Lori Garrett? Yeah, I think she might be interested, but I don't know if she wants to do it from 8 to 10 p.m. I could ask. I have her email, no problem. Okay. All right, let's turn on the share. We'll turn off Nicola. Okay, so that is a base. And the carbons are numbered. And you see it's 1 prime, 2 prime, 3, 4, 5. And so the 5 prime end would be up here, the 5 prime end of the DNA, and the 3 prime end is down here. Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to put it up here. We're going to turn on the screen share. So there you go. So this is Daniel Griffin's Stages of COVID. You can find the original article down here. Note, 2 phases, the viral replication phase and the inflammatory period. Viral replication, you get exposure. TE is the time of exposure. The virus begins to reproduce, replicate its genome. The RNA levels rise. This is viral RNA as measured by PCR. It peaks, there's an incubation period of 2 to 14 days, and then you have symptom onset here at the peak of replication, but you're already shedding and transmitting before symptom onset. And then that first week, the viral loads go down, you recover, and if you're lucky, that's the end of your illness. But in many people, you have a second phase, an inflammatory phase, where you have an overexuberant immune response, and that can wreak havoc. And here is where you can't breathe and you go to the ICU and so forth. That is COVID rebound, right? There's one phase and then there's a second phase. Apparently you're getting better, and then you have this second inflammatory phase. That's COVID rebound. That's what Daniel calls COVID rebound. It's not Paxlovid rebound. It's not caused by Paxlovid. If you take Paxlovid, you may put down, lower the viral loads, and then when you're over the 5-day course, you may then have an inflammatory period. That's all that is going on there. So there's no Paxlovid rebound. And doctors who refuse to prescribe Paxlovid because they say, I don't want you to have Paxlovid rebound, call it the wall of polio, a collection of 6 well culture plates that have been used to measure the concentration of poliovirus in various...
I'm going to leave it alone, man. I'm going to let y'all get into that lecture, man. Everything is in the description of the video when dealing with anything that I got on the screen. So look, I don't see any questions, comments, or rejections in the chat. Some of the people that actually send me the information, they might be tuned in, listening, but not saying nothing. What up, Omar? What up, Double R? What up, EIE? What up, Mo? What's good? You need to cover the Tennessee bill about adding the hanging on a tree to their execution law and Mississippi bill on separation, Jim Crow stuff. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Lamar, what up? But what up, Benita? Everett Juju, what up? So everything is laid out here for you in the description of the video, from the beginning all the way to the particular end of this particular video. You have perspective, you got sources, and you got everything that stands in the way of how this House Committee, Department of Energy, concluded. There were some names dropped, but you know what I mean. We don't need to appeal to any authority. We have the evidence behind us to go and research, reevaluate, and come up to our own conclusions on this matter. Also, you pretendians, fair warning: anyone claiming to be an abo, you're going to have to answer a very important question for me, because if you think that you're indigenous to the Americas and you ain't got supportive evidence, you in trouble. You in trouble. You in trouble. You caused a huge demise of a population of people that were horrifically disrespected by Leopold. It was something that indigenous people of the Americas allowed Jesuit missionaries to bear witness to, that helped them get into the interior of Africa. I'm trying to get my brother to do a TikTok for that, because I believe that it could go crazy with the TikTok. So I might not build on that any further until I see if my brother does the TikTok thing. I ain't got TikTok, so if he does it, you know what I mean, I can give him the information and he can spin it his way. And yeah, so look out for that. But Abos, you ain't Abo. You are a culture vulture. And anyone that says that the virus has been leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, show me your evidence. Show me lineage A and lineage B and the path it took, because you can sequence the genome. Show me the path that it took coming out of that lab. Why would it come out of the lab and go right over the bridge, cross over a bridge, and then into a population? Why would it travel that route? Instead, why is lineage A and lineage B traveling toward these places that you saying got it? Even the CDC places. So, man, I don't want to hear none of that garbage. None of it. And on that note, I'm going to keep this digestible so people can catch the replay and learn from it. Your boy is out. Too legit.